On today's show, I want to show you how just by using a little copy paper and a canvas, you can make some really stunning 3D wall art for your home. For this first piece, I'll be using white copy paper, white canvas, this one is 16 by 20, scissors, and the hot glue gun. Let's start by making a large flower on my canvas. I'm going to start with 3 sheets of white copy paper, and I'm going to fold that in half a couple of times. Now I'm going to open the last fold up, and I'm going to draw a few different size petals on here. I'm drawing a large petal and gradually going down to smaller size petals. Now I'm going to cut each of these shapes out, and while you're cutting this, make sure you cut right inside the line because you don't want your pencil line to show up on the paper. And the folded paper will give me 6 petals per shape. Now it's time to attach these to my canvas. But first, to give each petal a 3D shape, I'm going to give them a crease down the middle vertically. Now starting with the large petals, I'm going to put a little hot glue just on the bottom edge to attach them to the canvas as I lay them out, overlapping around in a circle. The next size petal will come a little inward towards the center and fall between the larger petals. And of course I'm doing the same with the next size petals. Now at this point I want to start squeezing the tips of the petals and pushing them upward just to give them a more realistic three-dimensional look. Now I'm going to take about 4 of those smallest petals and continue gluing those down and push them all the way up. With the last 2 of the smallest one, I'm going to take one of them and curl it inward at the bottom and then hot glue that at the bottom. So I have something that looks like this, and I'm going to put hot glue right at the bottom and glue that straight up in the center. I'm going to glue the other petal straight up and around that center petal. And you might want to draw 1 extra smaller petal on that sheet just so you have enough petals to go around the center. And here's my first 3D flower. Now I want to make some really big leaves to go around my flower, so I'm going to take a few sheets of paper and fold it in half once, and I'm going to draw a very large leaf shape. Again, I'm folding those shapes in half to give them a 3D look, and I'm tucking the leaves under and around the flower. I want to surround this canvas with other pretty flowers. So for the next flower, I think I want to add a little texture. I'm going to try to make a nice round hydrangea to go right there. To make this flower, I'm taking 1 sheet of paper and I'm drawing a large circle. I'm cutting that out, and then I'm cutting a line going from the bottom towards the center. Then I'm going to overlap the slit inward on top of itself to about a 45-degree angle. Now I'm going to hot glue that in place to make sort of a flat cone shape. And this will be the base for my 3D hydrangea flower. To make my little hydrangea petals, I'm taking about 4 sheets of paper and I'm going to fold this in half. And I'm going to draw little daisies on this sheet. That's a circle in the middle and about 4 or 5 petals. And these are about 1.5 inches each. I'm not sure how many flowers I'll need to fill up the cone, but I drew 12 flowers and I'm going to start cutting some of them out. And you want to make sure you cut between the petals, go all the way down to the center. So I'm going to discard the top flower because it has the pencil marks on, And with the rest of the flowers in the stack, I'm going to crease the petals like I did with the other ones to make them 3D, and I'm going to push the petals inward towards the center to make sort of like a little flower cup shape. Now I cut about 3 or 4 of those daisy stacks, and I'm going to start gluing these down to see how they look. I'm putting a little bit of glue right at the bottom of the cup, and I'm gluing these pretty close together so that the petals will sort of bunch up. So I ended up using about 36 of these little flowers to fill up the cone to make this hydrangea. And it looks very realistic. I think I'm going to tuck it right in here on the side of my big flower. I really love seeing that texture against the smooth petals. Okay, next I think I like to create a flower with thinner pointy petals. I folded each petals and I'm overlapping them pretty close all the way around. Since I still have lots of hydrangea petals left over, I'm going to use these to create the center. Also, I decided to curl the petals under so it looks more like a daisy. For my next flower, I'm cutting out long but more rounded shaped petals. But with the bottom row of this flower, I'm not folding the petals, but I'm bending them inward. And I'm putting a little hot glue at the bottom to pinch it closed, almost like a little spoon. The next layer up, I'm not going to glue the bottom closed. I'm going to cut it a little short, and I'm tucking the ends right in between the spaces of the bottom pieces, and I'm going to glue it slightly tilted up. And we'll do the same for a couple of more layers up. The last few pieces I'm going to roll like almost like a tube and stick that straight up in the middle and put some curved pieces around that. Now I have a big round petal flower, almost like a chrysanthemum, and I'm going to add a few leaves around this one too. And wherever possible, I'm extending the leaves and the flowers beyond the edge of the canvas just to make it more interesting. Now I really like the texture of the hydrangea, and I want some more of that in different areas. So I'm going to make something that looks like hydrangeas but with a different shape. Something like oak leaf hydrangeas that are kind of long. So I'm cutting out triangles in the paper and I'm going to roll it around like a cone. I'm making 2 of these and I want them to sort of shoot out from the canvas. So I'm going to cut them so that they lay the way I want them. So using the same process I used to make my hydrangeas, I'm covering the cones with little daisies. And these daisies are just a little bit smaller, about 1 inch. And I'm going to glue those in place. I want them just shooting out from underneath the large flower. And I think that was a great way to distribute that kind of texture. Now to add a different type of texture, I think I'd like to have some branch leaves in the background. So I'm going to draw a couple of thin branches with leaves. And you can stack a couple of sheets of paper, maybe 3 or 4, to make a bunch of branch leaves to go around your canvas. Now to make this 3D, after I cut it out, I'm going to fold the leaves and the stems inward. And I'm going to use just a few dabs of hot glue to tuck some of these behind the flowers. For my next flowers, I'm making smaller petals to fill in some of the small spaces around the canvas. On this one, I'm rolling the petals inward to make it look more like a peony and adding smaller leaves. I had quite a few petals left over from this chrysanthemum looking flower, so I turned the petals upside down so it looks more like a star shape. I'm bending the petals upward, and for the center part I'm folding a couple of sheets of paper into a strip. I'm going to cut that strip, fold it in half, and then I'm going to cut slits into the top of the strip. Then I'm going to use a skewer to roll the fringes around it to make it sort of a curl shape. And then I'm going to roll the fringes around itself and hot glue the bottom end. Then you could sort of fan those pieces out. Now I'm going to glue this to the center of my flower. And this is probably the simplest way to make a bushy center. Now I wasn't too crazy about the points on this flower, so I decided to curl the petals inward. Now I do like that better. I think it looks a little like a water lily. Okay, now I think this canvas can hold just one more flower, just maybe right here at the bottom. So let's make our last flower. Since I don't have a lot of room, this one will have small petals also, but I'll make a different shaped petal, sort of a wavy top. With these petals, I'm going to use my pencil to curve the bottom inward, and I'm curving the top of the petal towards the outside. So I get sort of a S shape with each petal. And I'm putting a little hot glue right at the bottom of the petal so that the petal sits upward and it curves out. I'm overlapping each petal slightly. And since I have a little more room around the flower, I'm going to put some petals at the bottom coming out more to make a bigger flower. So now I have 2 layers of these curved petals going around. To make my center for this flower, I'm going to do this the same way I did my hydrangea. But I'm drawing tiny little flowers about a ½ inch big. I'm going to make a small circle cone, small enough to fit inside the flower, and cover it with the little flower shaped petals. As you can see, it's like a tiny version of the hydrangea. It's a little more difficult to cut out the little petal pieces, but it's definitely worth it. Look how beautiful and realistic this looks. Now to finish this off, I'm just going to add some big leaves and some shrub leaves in the gaps, and I think I'm done. And this turned out really beautiful. Even without color, the textures and the shadows make it a really dramatic sculptural piece. At first glance, you might think it's made out of iron or plaster or ceramics. It's hard to believe it's just regular old copy paper. And it's so inexpensive, you can do something like this on large canvases and cover an entire wall. This was an image I found online that inspired my pieces. In addition to this, I also created an abstract colored 3D paper art. To make this, I also used a canvas and copy paper, but in addition I used matte black acrylic paint and my Your House at Home metallic paint. For this piece, I'm going to start by painting my canvas black. I'm using flat acrylic black paint. And I'm painting the front, around the top, sides, and bottom. Next, I'm going to make colored paper to work with, and to make this I'm using my metallic paint. I painted sheets with just about all the metallic colors, Then I let them dry and I flattened them under a book. I made sure each sheet had a smooth transition of colors from green, yellow, gold, orange, red, violet, blue, and silver. And if you don't want to paint these, you can also just buy metallic color sheets from a craft store like Michael's or Hobby Lobby. So for this piece, I decided to do a colorful abstract 3D paper image using the same shape. So I stacked the papers and turned them upside down, and I'm going to draw a leaf-like shape, starting small and getting larger. And I tried to get as many shapes on this page as possible. So I cut all the pieces out and I have them in stacks, and now it's time to start doing my design on my black canvas. So I like to have these colorful shapes spiraling out from a center circle. So I'm going to draw a light circle with this glass to use as a guide. So I'm going to start with the small green pieces, and I'm going to fold it in half to give it dimension just like I did with the last project. I'll be alternating the dark and light green pieces. And I'm fanning each of these pieces at a slight angle around a circle. And after completing a circle, I'm starting on the next size up, and those will go above and between the first row. And so on. As I get larger, I'm going to make this design a little asymmetrical and have the green fan out a little more towards one side. Next, I'm going to add yellow pieces, and I'm alternating yellow and gold. I drew a curved line that I'm going to follow for the yellow. Next, I'm doing orange and bronze, and then violet and bronze. And as you can see, I'm just sort of making curved shapes. I'm fanning out from small to large and just kind of going with the flow to see how it lands. As you can see, I'm also trying to make sure the colors transition well, so from green to blue, from yellow to red and purple. So I just tried to follow that same transition pattern as I place pieces down, and here is my finished abstract piece. Now this piece is a lot like my silver paper feathered piece, but more colorful and bright. I think I might also mount this on a silver mirror frame. But it just goes to show you there are an endless amount of beautiful things you can create for your home. And who would have thought you can do it with plain white paper? Check out my new Etsy store where you can get some of the very projects made on this show. I also added new project guide booklets with full color step-by-step instructions for some of your favorite projects, including the Bohemian Crystal Table Lamp. All digital downloads just $3. And check out my Amazon page where you can pick up my Your House a Home metallic multi-surface acrylic paint with 8 beautiful shimmering colors. Attention everyone, this metallic paint has been doing so well that it is sold out at the moment. And because of Amazon's policy on non-essential items during this coronavirus crisis, they are only restocking important needed items at this time. So this product will not be available again until June of 2020. So hang in there, we'll be back soon. But you can still get my Book of Elegant Home Crafts Volume 1 with all your favorite projects together in one big beautiful colored step-by-step instruction book. On my Amazon page, you'll see all my favorite crafting tools and supplies used on this show, and you can add them all to your cart for the one-click, fast and easy shopping and delivery convenience of Amazon. I'll be working every day to make crafting fun and easy for you. Follow me at Your House of Home and Your House of Home TV on all social media for extra home, food, and gardening tips.